Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, please. Should I
Okay.
resurface?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, it's okay.
Sir, we have approximately 35 participants.
Okay,
They are from commerce, economics, and management.
okay,
And majority of them have their PhD degree. Approximately 10 participants, they don't have their PhD degree, and all of them are in their initial stage of career. And they need this certificate of refresher course for their promotion, their first promotion, or sometimes for their second promotion. So a mixed group is there. And now their lunch time, more than 25 students already joined. They may be joining within 2-3 minutes. Okay, so I'll go for a brief introduction of yours to the participants, and then we will hand over the session to you, sir.
all right.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So, dear participants, as I informed you people earlier, that is, this session will be taken by Professor D.K. Nauriyal on topic that is report writing and results interpretation. Already we circulated a MCQ yesterday, and sir will discuss that report writing and results interpretation with that MCQ. So please be attentive. And one more thing, if you have any question in the meantime, so you may put it in question answer section. Okay, sir will take care, or I'll see, I'll interrupt, and I'll tell that to sir. Now we are going for a very brief introduction of sir. Sir is very senior professor of economics in India, and moreover, sir was vice chancellor for Kamun University, Nainital, and Uttarakhand Open University, 2 term. And sir has started his teaching career in 1978, which was just after 1 year of my birth. So everybody of us, we can understand that sir's seniority, and sir is in the field. Sir has 60 plus publication in SCI journals, 4 books of economics, and he served almost all the academic administrative posts in IIT. That is head, dean, vice chancellor of 2 universities for 2 term. So we don't need to introduce her name itself is an introduction. So now I'm just handing over the session to Professor Nauriyal, sir. Sir, now time is yours. You may take up.
Okay, thank you, Professor Das, for such a generous introduction of mine. But anyway, thank you so much again. So I'll start interacting with the candidates now. All they are
Sir,
just.
my video and audio is off, but I'll be here. I am listening, sir.
Thank you. That would be great. Thank you. Thank you so much. So participants, good afternoon to every one of you. If you can hear me, am I audible to you or not?
Yes, sir. You are audible. Participants are not allowed to make their mic and
All
video
right.
on.
All right. But I would like
So
a brief
they will
introduction.
put only questions either in chat box. They may put their responses on chat box, or they will put question in Q&A section, sir.
Okay. 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 So it is one-way traffic right now. Is it? Fine. So they have also given me messages in the chat box that they are able to listen to me. I gave you yesterday, not you, but Professor Das, day before yesterday, one MCQ on research methodology, which probably will give me first an idea as to where from to take off. And my understanding is that all of you are accomplished researchers, and therefore you would be knowing what I would be sharing with you. But then, lots of things do come with the age and experience and interactions, exposure, internal or external. Therefore, maybe I would be able to add some value to your to what exactly do you know right now. So I'll start with the my MCQ, but let's have a brief look at a few slides of my uh, presentation. So I'm just putting the slides here, and uh, hopefully uh, you are able to see the slides. Can you see, or hopefully, Dr. Das, can you confirm
Yes,
whether
sir, it's visible, sir.
it's visible?
It's
All right.
visible. You may make it full screen if you want, sir.
Okay, I'm trying to make it full screen, but it's coming up now. Good, good, good.
Yes, sir,
Thank you
it's
for
full
helping me
screen
out.
now.
Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
thank you. We'll talk about the data interpretation and report writing. We'll have some preliminary kind of remarks first of all, and then of course we'll discuss that MCQ, and then we'll discuss many other facets of report writing. Let's start with the primary questions that we generally put ourselves to. So why the research report, and why should I write one? In We all are in academics, and therefore we know that our promotions, our selections, all are based upon the research and teaching, and a research report or the papers published in the journals or books published by the credible publishers in India or outside are the only concrete evidence of our research, and therefore we need to be very careful and very meticulous when we write our research papers. Harping on the publishability of the material and credibility of it. So, how a research paper is judged? That is one question that we need to ourselves. Generally, the quality of research may be judged directly by the quality of writing and how well you convey the importance of your findings. We'll see later on when I'll share with you my experience of writing abstract writing, going for review of literature, then how to interpret the results, and then how to write our conclusions. Then we'll see that a good style makes a huge difference to the publishability of the material and its acceptability among the researchers, and therefore we need to know more about it. When actually, generally, what do? We write a research paper, and then we start looking for the journals where we can communicate to them. Now, there is a problem with it because the journals may have very specific requirements. For instance, that their bibliography will have to be arranged in a different manner, or say figures have to be put in annexure only, or say the long tables are to be put in annexure. So they do have their very specific requirement. And if you convey a research paper, you communicate a research paper to somebody, then in that event, if your research paper does not meet the specific requirement of the journal or its guidelines, then in that case, there is heavy probability that it will not be considered for further consideration. What to say of publication? So these are some of the points that we need to keep in mind when we talk about writing research paper and or say PhD dissertation. There are different kinds of reports that we see. For example, there are scientific reports, there are lab reports, there are technical reports, business reports, research reports, or academic overview. These all are part of one single nomenclature, which is referred to as technical communication. But these all kinds of reports vary in their purpose and structure, and therefore when I write a scientific report, I need not to copy the pattern that I would be using for writing a business report or an academic overview. So we need to check for the specific requirement of the type of report which I am writing or paper which I am writing, and then I should go ahead with my writing part. Generally these are the questions. Generally, when we, take the progress report of our research scholars, and we ask them to present their progress. So what they say that they have completed work on the first chapter, they are in the process of writing second or third chapter, and in due course they would be able to write all the 5 chapters of the dissertation. Right, but we need to understand that the PhD dissertation, or for that matter, even a research paper, is not written down in a linear order. It's not that you have to write introduction and that's done up. In fact, after writing your conclusions and looking at and results discussions and conclusions, you need to revert to your introduction part and see if it is coherent with what you have inferred, right? If it is not coherent, then you need to rewrite the introduction part. So, and similarly, abstract will appear first, but this is one thing which is written in the last. So, the research papers or research documents are never written in a linear order. You can see the statistics here. For every 1,000 readers who see your title, hundreds may read the abstract, 10 will read some of the main report, and at most one may follow all the way through. So if you have not very carefully written down your abstract, there is every probability that people will not even touch it or cite it anywhere. And in the absence of any citing of your research, what credibility it will generate. Right? So it is this. People generally work with the middle section, where they talk about the research methodology or how to design the system, and that could be one good starting point. Though you can have you can write introduction, tentative introduction first of all, and then you go ahead with the methods and system design. But you need to revisit your introduction chapter after you write your methods and system, and especially after you finished off writing down your conclusions and policy implications. So when we write the introduction, which would be tentative right in the beginning, as we have already talked about, some background theory or a review of previous studies may help you to clarify the focus of your report. This review is extremely important, and background theory provides a solid basis for further, work, right? And therefore, you need to put these two things in a very meticulous manner. Writing specifications are given almost everywhere. Journals do mention their writing specifications. Universities where you are submitting your PhD dissertation, for example, have also or do also cite their specifications. So, but you need to look at what would be the font size, which kind of fonts the journal or the university or the institution will prefer or will like you to follow, what would be indentation and so on and so forth. So we'll just have a look at this here. So generally 10 or 12 point fonts are preferred. Most acceptable fonts generally are Arial or Times New Roman. They are the most acceptable one. Unacceptable fonts are also listed out here. You can see they are not preferred. And universities do specify, even journals do specify that you need to write your article or your PhD dissertation either with the Arial fonts or Times New Roman or any other font that they may like to specify. And of course, the paper, nowadays we are submitting online research papers, and therefore pristine condition of your report or your paper, research paper, the printout of it is no longer required. But in case of PhD dissertation, you would be submitting it to the university, and therefore you need to put it in a very pristine condition. For example, I have put in the specifications which Indian Institute of Technology, Rorkee, where I work, has put in, and all Indian institutes of technology and ITs and even universities, central or states, all of them do have their own specifications. Please look for specifications, first of all, when you are writing a PhD dissertation, and look for specifications when you are writing a research paper or any journal. So I've just quoted the Indian Institute of Technology, Rorkee here. These are the kinds of things that National Institute of Technology, Calicut has, Kozhikode it is referred to as now. So they have also put in their requirement, and similar kinds of posting you would see in case of IIT Bombay or IIT Kanpur or IIT Delhi or University of Delhi or any other university, wherever you are, University of Missouri, where this course is being conducted. So you would see these kinds of requirements. Now, section or point indentation system, identification system, indentation comes later on. But how do we do that? There are two methods, in fact, and these two methods help us to identify which are our main points or major points, and what is the range of material covered in that, right? And therefore you need to be very very careful when you uh, adopt a identification system. And there are two kinds of systems which I can share with you here. One is the decimal numbering, and another is the number letter. We'll see later on which we need to go for, or which is more popular and simple to use, and which one we should go for. But the point that which I'll make here is that once you have chosen a system, the writer must present the system, must follow the system throughout the report or journal, or sorry, your research paper, right? Throughout, you need to log into or say cling to one particular system. Either it would be decimal numbering or it would be number letter system. Let's see the decimal number system. There are different levels. The first level, then the second level, which would be a sub point of first level, then third level, which might be a sub point of the second level, and the fourth level, which would be again a subcategory of the third level. So, in case of decimal numbering system, it could be one, two, three, first, second, third, and so on and so forth. Second level, if for instance we want to make a sub point of major point number one, then it has to be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. And similarly, if it is the second level point of first level number two, then it would be 2.1 and so on and so forth, right? Then third level it would be subservient to the second level, and fourth level is again a subcategory of the third level. So these are the kinds of system that we need to follow throughout the report. This is referred to as the decimal numbering system, and indentation would be accordingly. I'll just show the indentation to you. So here you can see the indentation. First is the major point. You need not write down 1.0. You can also write just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 and whatever. And then, a sub point of 1 is 1.1, 1.2. And if you want to make sub point of 1.2, 2 points, for example, then you need to write 1.2.1, 1.2.2, or 1.2.3, and so on and so forth. And similarly, if you want to make subheadings of 1.2.2, then that's the kind of numbering that you'll have to give. And then, of course, you will move to the second major point and so on. So follow this indenting very, very, religiously, because that's what the first the editor, when your copy reaches to the editor's desk, that is the first thing that they look at. Now, number letter is another one. Here, you have the Roman letters as a first level, and then second level will be alphabets, capital alphabets of English. Third level, the Arabic numerals. Fourth one, the small letters of English, and fifth level would be the small letters of the Roman. Right. So number letter, as you could see, is far more cumbersome, and you may not remember for all the time where should you write small a within the parenthesis, or say small one, Roman one, within the parenthesis. And though indentation system is again same for even number letter, you can just have a look at it. The Roman one is the major point, and English capital letters A and B are the sub points of the same. And if you want to make further subdivisions of B point, then it will be 1, 2, the Arabic numerals, and then again, if sub points of 2, then it will be A, B, and C. But this is far more cumbersome, and generally people go for following the decimal numbering system. Right, that's it. Now, writing the first report, I'll come to this later on, but I would just, go back to the quiz which I had provided to you. So you need to now mark yourself whether you have rightly marked the answer or not. There are lots of options given here. I'm just reading out the first question. First question was, which of the following best describes the primary purpose of a literature review in a research paper? And you have four options here. I'll not read out all the options, but the second option is the right one. It's the most appropriate one to identify gaps in existing research and provide a foundation for new research. That's the primary purpose of a literature review, which you do for your research paper or your PhD dissertation. Because a literature review critically assesses previous research, identifying gaps or areas needing further study. It sets the stage for new research by framing it within the context of what has already been done. Right. Then second question is, which of the following is least relevant when conducting a systematic literature review? You again have the four options here. And to me, the B option is the best one. Choosing studies based on their alignment with the researcher's hypothesis. And the explanation for is that a systematic review is meant to be objective and unbiased. Selecting studies solely based on alignment with researchers' hypothesis can lead to confirmation bias. You might have heard of it, undermining the viewer's integrity. So the advice is that you need to choose studies based on their alignment with your hypothesis. Third one, when assessing the quality of studies in a literature review, which of the following factors is most important? Now, you have lots of options here, four options again. The best possible answer is the methodology and sample size used in the study. That should guide your study, your literature review. There is an explanation for it, but I'll just skip it here because we do have lots of things on our plate today. In a literature review, MCQ4 is in a literature review. What is the primary function of grouping studies into thematic categories? Why do we put them in thematic categories? And the correct answer is the C, to organize the research findings meaningfully and identify trends. That is it. Because thematic grouping helps to structure the literature review by organizing research findings into meaningful categories, making it easier to observe trends, patterns, and relationships in the literature. Fifth MCQ is, and please keep on marking so that you know how much, and do it very honestly. And not after listening to me, you must have already done it up. But in order to find out what exactly is your level, which you need not to share with anybody else, including me, you would know what's your level and how you need to go, how far you need to go. MCQ 5 is, which of the following strategies best enhances the depth of analysis in a literature review? So there are four options once again, but the correct answer here is the C, critically analyzing both the strengths and limitations of each study. Why? Because depth in literature comes from a balanced and critical analysis, which includes recognizing both strengths and limitations. This comprehensive approach strengthens the reviewer's credibility. Then you have the MCQ 6. When writing the literature review section, what is the significance of significance of citing seminal studies in the field? So again, you have four options here, but the correct option here would be, it acknowledges influential work that laid the foundation for current research. So you would relate it to those seminal theories, and wherever you are going to suggest an improvement, you also point it out. Seminal studies, in fact, are landmark research works that have significantly shaped the field. Citing these studies is crucial for recognizing foundational knowledge and showing how current research builds upon established work. Then you have question number 7. In which situation is it most appropriate to conduct a literature review on interdisciplinary studies? It's one interesting question which I have very deliberately put in here. You again do have the 4 options, but the correct option is when the research question addresses a complex problem involving multiple fields. And interdisciplinary literature review is ideal for research questions that span across fields, integrating diverse perspectives to address complex and multifaceted problems. Then you have MCQ 8. Which of the following is the least recommended, not most, but least recommended practice when evaluating sources in a literature review? So you shouldn't really be going for preferring sources with complex language to demonstrate depth. The correct answer is D. Preferring sources with complex language to demonstrate depth. That will make the work far more ambiguous and very complex to understand for the audience. So choosing sources based upon the complexity of language is not a good example. Right. And it's not even a good practice. The quality of a study is determined by its methodology, the rigor, relevance, and not the language level that is used. Now you have MCQ number 9, which is one of the key challenges in conducting a comprehensive literature review. So again, you have 4 options. So the right answer here to me is maintaining objectivity while analyzing conflicting research findings. D is the correct answer here. And the explanation which can be given for this is that one of the biggest challenges in a literature review is objectively assessing studies, even when they present conflicting findings, to provide an unbiased, well-rounded analysis of the field. For instance, uh, I'm working on a particular problem. For instance, it is household fertility problem. Now, there are studies which highlight that the parents which are highly educated do have lesser number of children, and vice versa, right? But then there could be studies where the parents with least education, least level of literacy, or totally illiterate may have lesser number of children as compared to the people who are well educated, right? These are the conflicting findings, right? So we need to when we are reporting these findings, we need to do it very objectively, and we need to look at their approaches, their methodologies, their sample size, and the spatial circumstances in which the inferences have been drawn. Maybe the sample size is very spatial. For instance, if the sample size has a large number of literate parents and somewhat lesser number of illiterate parents, and literate parents are of higher age group as compared to the illiterate parents, then there is every probability that the finding that you get is that the illiterate parents do have lesser number of children as compared to the literate parents, right? But it is contextual here. The context is that the sample of the illiterate parents here is of smaller, younger age group as compared to the literate parents. So you need to very objectively do this. Then you have MCQ number 10. What is the primary goal of the results section in the research paper? And you again do have 4 choices here. So the correct answer to me is B, to summarize and present only the findings related to the hypothesis or research questions. Because the research section is focused on presenting the findings objectively without interpretation. And the interpretation of these findings belong to discussion section. Again, we need to understand that results and discussions are 2 different things. In the results, you are just reporting the results that you might have got through your statistical analysis, and you are just presenting the tables or the graphs and whatever. But in the discussion, you will go for thorough discussion of the results that you have achieved in the light of earlier the literature that you have reviewed, and the light of changing circumstances or whatever you feel is more appropriate or pertinent. Then you have MCQ number 11. In the results section, which of the following practices should be avoided? So B is the right answer here. You should avoid all raw data collected during the study. You would be tabulating, processing the data, and only processed data needs to be considered here, not the raw data. MCQ 12 is which of the following is a common mistake when writing the discussion section? So, what generally, what kind of mistake do we commit? And this one particular question is focusing on that. In fact, when we are writing a discussion section, we generally do provide a detailed statistical analysis of the results. It is not required. It has already been done in the results section. And now you would be going for a detailed discussion on that, looking at the earlier literature, looking at the changing contemporary circumstances, and the kind of sample that you have, the kind of society that you have interacted with, and recent research results, and so on and so forth. So discussion is different from the result, and discussion should not involve detailed statistical analysis, which you have already dealt with in the result section. So answer B is the right answer here. In fact, discussion section should focus more on interpreting the results, explaining their significance, and relating them to the existing literature. Then you have MCQ 13. When discussing limitations in the discussion section, which of the following is the most appropriate approach? Limitations we do write, whether we are writing a research paper or we are writing a PhD dissertation. Every study has a limitation. We all know that whatever we have come up as a result of our research is not a final word on research. You must have seen in case of medical sciences, whatever was recommended earlier is not recommended anymore. For instance, in our childhood, we were taught that if you see somebody burning in flames, then you need to wrap him or her up in a blanket and ask them to lay down on the and never pour cold water on it. Now, medical science does say altogether different thing. Now, they talk about pouring the cold water because that would reduce the intensity of burning, and the chances of survival is much more with that practice. And similarly, wrapping a blanket is now strictly forbidden because that might intensify the burn. So, whatever we say today is not a final word in the world of research, right? So we can't say that it's okay, it's fine. Um, Here, the correct option is discussing limitations openly to provide context for the findings. Now, acknowledging limitation is a very crucial part of transparent and credible discussion. It provides context for the findings, helping readers understand the boundaries of studies, validity, and therefore you must report the limitations. MCQ 14, which of the following is not recommended for presenting data in the results section? Right. So the appropriate answer is integrating the interpretation of results within the data presentation. We'll not go for a detailed discussion on it. I think it's very easy to understand it. In the discussion section, MCQ 15, in the discussion section, why is it important to compare the study's findings to previous research? Right. Again, there are four options as usual. Option B is the most appropriate here to show how the study's findings align with or different from existing research, thereby highlighting its contribution to the field. Now, comparing findings with existing literature helps situate the study within the broader field, showing how it conforms or extends or challenges previous research, which is essential for advancing knowledge. MCQ 16 is what is the most appropriate way to address unexpected findings in the discussion section? Now, certain findings are unexpected. The kind of finding that I have mentioned, where I said that the literate parents do have larger number of children compared to illiterate parents, right? So when you get these kinds of unexpected findings, how do you address that? So here again, you have four options. Option C is the best one. Discuss possible explanations and suggest how future research could explore these findings further. Unexpected findings should be addressed very thoughtfully, exploring possible reasons for these findings and proposing future research directions adds depth and transparency to the study. In fact, when you are reporting unexpected results, you also need to look at your data, and data probably would provide you a solution to that. If you don't get, then you might say that the present study has come up with these results, but these results need to be further validated based upon a larger sample. I mean, these kinds of qualifications you may set in. So that doesn't make your study as irrelevant or devoid of any kind of research input or something. No, it doesn't happen that way. In fact, it is appreciated, and it also gives a future direction for research to the probable researchers in times to come. MCQ 17 in the results section. Uh, when is it most appropriate to use both tables and graphs to present the same data? And I'm pretty sure you must have gone for the B option when the data is complex and needs both visual and tabular representation for clarity, right? Using tables and graphs can be helpful when data complexity warrants multiple forms of representation for enhanced clarity and better reader comprehension. So it's that. And then MCQ 18, which of the following statement is least appropriate for a discussion section? Least appropriate, not most appropriate. So the answer B is this. This study conclusively proves that the proposed hypothesis is true for all similar cases. You are going for a broad generalization here. And any research needs to understand that it's not a final word, right? Research findings generally do provide support, but do not prove a hypothesis conclusively, right? Scientific findings are open to evaluation and are rarely, if ever, stated as absolute proofs. And therefore, we should never say that it conclusively proves, right? Then MCQ 90. What is key reason for including both strengths and limitations in discussions section? So again, you have four options here, but the most appropriate is to highlight the study's reliability while being transparent about factors that may affect the results. So both, discussing strengths and limitations do provide a balanced view, reinforcing the study's validity while transparently addressing any limitations that could impact interpretation. And similarly, now I'm not discussing it any further because we do have lots of things to be discussed. I'll just tell you the appropriate answer. For MCQ 20, C is the right answer. For 21st, it is the C again. For 22nd, it is A. That's the right answer. For MCQ 23, it's the B. For MCQ 24, it's the B again. For MCQ 25, it is again the B. MCQ 26 is B. That's the right answer. MCQ 27 is here. The C is the right answer by providing a strong final statement on the potential impact of the research. So MCQ 28, B is the right answer again. 29, for the 29, C is the right answer. For 30, it's the C, which is the right answer. For 31st, it's the C again. For 32nd, it's the B. For 33rd, it's the B again. For 34th, the B. For 35th, it's again B. So for 36, again B. For 37th, it's the C. For 38th, the B. Now, this statistical significance is something which people debate a lot. Like the question here is, when interpreting quantitative data, why is it important to avoid confusing statistical significance with practical significance? So actually, statistical significance only indicates a likelihood that results are due to chance, not their real world relevance. So statistical significance shows that results are unlikely to be due to chance, but practical significance assesses the real world implications. Confusing the two can lead to overstated claims about the impact of the findings. So never do confuse statistical significance with the practical significance. MCQ 39, you have C as the right answer. Okay. Again, this plausible explanation, this is important for us to understand which approach is most effective when interpreting complex or unexpected findings. Now, you may not have any clue as to how to accurately define it or define it with more clarity and probability. In that event, what you do, you provide plausible explanations for that particular phenomenon, which is unexpected or against the stream or against the current, right? Plausible explanations need to be provided. That will not only make your research productive, but will also provide a kind of direction for the future research. So C is the right answer here. MCQ 40, you have B as the right answer. 41st, it's the B again. 40, okay, 41st. Then why is it important to suggest alternative explanations for the findings in the interpretation section? So the B is the right answer here, to show openness to different perspectives, improving the robustness of the interpretation. Now, I want to say here something. I might get a result by analyzing the data. That result need to be validated based upon what others have said and what others have not been able to say, right? That will provide a kind of objective and a balanced view, and your research would be far more acceptable in this case. But if you interpret your result oblivious of all other kinds of conflicting results which people or researchers might have reported, then the audience might infer that you are oblivious of earlier researches, and therefore your explanation is not much credible or cannot be accepted as such. So you need to look at the different perspective, even if they are in conflict with your findings, and then justify your finding why they are more robust or why are they more reliable. Next is what is the primary purpose of selecting an appropriate research methodology in a research study? So here you have the B as the right answer, to provide a systematic approach that answers the research questions or hypothesis. Then you have next question as when deciding between experimental and observational research, which of the following should be considered most important? The correct answer here is the B. Next question is when is it most appropriate to use a cross-sectional study design? The most appropriate answer here again is B, when you are measuring data at a single point in time to identify patterns or relationships. Then you have next question, which of the following best practices best describes the role of sampling in deciding on a research methodology? So the B answer is the correct, because sampling determines the representativeness of the study, which affects generalizability. Larger is the sample, you become more qualified for generalizing your studies, so on and so forth. Next question is which consideration is most important when choosing a data collection method? B is the right answer here. Next is in a study investigating the impact of a new drug or blood pressure, which research design is most suitable? C is the right answer, experimental design with a control group. And then you have next question, which is the primary purpose of introduction section in research paper? B is the right answer, to establish the research context, identify the problem, and justify the study's importance. Next question is which of the following is a key feature of a well-written introduction? So it introduces the research problem and highlights its significance. The answer is C. Then next question is what is the purpose of stating the research gap in the introduction? So correct answer here is the C, to highlight and explore areas that the current study aims to address. Next is, which of the following best describes a strong research objective in introduction? The correct answer again is B here. It's specific, focused, and aligned with the research questions. Then next one is, which of the following is an effective way to establish the significance of research problem in introduction? In the introduction, answer is B again, highlighting the potential societal, scientific, or practical impact of addressing the problem. Next question is, why might a researcher include a theoretical framework in the introduction? So correct answer is A, to provide structure for interpreting the study's findings in the context of existing theories. Then I think this would be the last question, I believe. What's the second last. What is the primary purpose of an abstract in a research paper? So answer B is the correct one, to offer a brief overview of the research purpose, methods, key findings, and conclusions. And then the last question would be, which of the following elements is least likely to be included in an abstract? So least likely, not most likely. So the answer is the correct one. A discussion of the broader implications of the findings. So I have, shared the correct answers to these different questions. Now you can mark yourself where do you stand, and that will help you to find out how far have you to go. So let's now come to this writing. I now restrict myself to the slide presentation. Writing your report, developing the structure. The first one is the abstract, and somewhere it is also written as executive summary. So both are not the same. Executive summary you would see in case of business reports, and they are very different than the abstract. Abstract is far more condensed as compared to the executive summary. Executive summary might run into tens of pages, but abstract would be in 300 words at the most, right? So and then these are other, sections in the work. Introduction, where you will give the background, you will provide the literature review, you'll talk about the research methodology, then you will, analyze your result. We'll go for a deeper discussion in order to develop insights into the whole issue. And then on the basis of insights that you develop, you conclude. And sometime you might also come up with your recommendations. And then finally, you come up with references and appendices. So that's the general layout of a paper or a research. So I'll not go for this title report. You already know. Fine. There are different ways of doing it. So I'll just avoid here. Table of content again I will avoid because we do have few more things on our plates. So I'll writing the abstract. Now abstract writing is at most important. Why is it important? Because it is read by just a minute. So many times more people than who hear or read the entire article. It should not be a mere recital of the subject covered. Abstract should be a condensation or concentration of the central information in the paper that you could see. So fine. How do we write the abstract? Look at abstract needs to be standalone. Means the people just by looking at the abstract should be able to find out what exactly you have done here, what your conclusions are, methodologies and the databases, and how credible they are. So it should be standalone kind. It also allows the reader to gain a brief but complete overview of your entire report from objectives to conclusions. When you are going for a literature review, do you read the whole article in all the cases? We generally don't do it. We look at the abstract first of all, and if you find that the article or the research paper is relevant to our discussion, then we go for reading it. Otherwise, not. So, abstract is a practice which helps us to find out the most relevant literature for our review of literature, right? In most of the research papers in India, in particular, I have seen, and especially in conferences, that abstract is taken as an introduction. It's not an introduction. In fact, part of the introduction is used as an abstract, which is not the correct thing. So it has to be very cohesive, very succinct. It must flow well, and in fact, it is most important section along with the conclusions, because this will help the reader to identify whether this is the relevant article to be further read or not. So writing the abstract is extremely important. Now, I will share with you some of the way through which the abstracts are written. Let me put those files here. And let me see if I can really share them with you. Mm, just wait for a minute. I'm trying to find out those files. This abstract, how to write abstract. Yes, it's here. It's a Word file. Let me see if I can share it with you or not. Hmm. Let me see here. And it should be a Word file. Let me see if I can get it here. Yeah, it's here. That's great. Is it readable or not? Dr. Das, you can answer me. Can you please tell
Yes,
me?
sir. Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
It's readable.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, fine. And let me also see a few more works. Uh, how to write an abstract interpretation report writing. No, just a minute, sir. Just a minute. Uh, how to write, yeah, case studies. Let me put another file here, not this one. This is the old, oh, sorry. This is the old one. Let me put another file here. No, even this would do, but still there is another one which I think is far more appropriate. Case studies. And I do the case writing research. Okay. Is it okay? That's okay.
Yes, sir. It's okay, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay,
Yes.
there are many case studies here, but I'm just putting one. First of all, giving you some idea of as to how to write a research. Have a look at the text. I'm not reading it for you. You will read it for yourself. This is the introduction part of it. And if you have read it, I'll slightly scroll it up. Now, what is the step-by-step process of writing the abstract? We need to first of all understand the purpose of writing the abstract. So let's have a look at it. And these are the purposes of writing an abstract. Serves the multiple functions. For example, summarizes the research paper, helps readers decide if the paper is relevant to their work. We have already talked about it. Facilitates the retrieval of paper in databases through keywords. And an effective abstract highlights the key findings and significance of the research while remaining concise. And these are the different components of an abstract. Have a look at these components. Objective or purpose, why this research was conducted, what is the problem of research or research question, then the methods, briefly describe the methodology or approach taken, results, summarize the main findings or outcomes of the study. Conclusion, what is the significance of the findings and what impact do they have, right? So, and then, I provide the case to you. Have a look at this. These are the kinds of, challenges in writing an abstract. One could be very vague, too vague, vague. Researchers summarize too loosely or making it hard for the reader to grasp the major points, or overloading the abstract with the details, which you need to avoid under all circumstances. And if it lacks focus, then again, abstract is not good one. So I'm providing you one case, and please read the case very carefully, and then we'll see how it has been written down in the form of an abstract. I am providing you the scenario, not the whole article. Scenario is this. It has been taken from medical prosthetics. Prosthetics means where you fix up an artificial limb on part of the body where from the limb has been amputated or something. So it's that. Scenario is, imagine a researcher has conducted a study on the use of additive manufacturing, which essentially is the 3D printing, for producing customized medical prosthetics. And the research presents the following. These are the things that have been presented: objectives, then methodology, results, and conclusions. Have a look at this. Please read it carefully. And then we need to write the abstract based upon what is given here. If you have read it, then we need to write the abstract based upon the information that have been provided. Now, the best way the abstract could be written is this. This is the abstract written. I just put it in one form, put the entire abstract on the screen. So this is one, So if you have read it, I hope you have read it. Okay. So this is the analysis of the solution or the abstract written here. It is concise, written in 150 words, summarizing the key elements of the research without unnecessary details. It presents the objective, methodology, results, and conclusion in a clear, logical order. Relevance has been highlighted here. The abstract includes only relevant information that directly supports the researcher's aim, and it avoids technical jargon and excessive detail, focusing on the proper findings. Information are balanced. Objective is clearly stated at the beginning, setting the stage for the study. Methodology is briefly outlined, indicating the nature of the comparison without overwhelming.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, are you showing any slides regarding abstract?
There are few slides. Is it visible or not? This one?
It's not visible, sir. That's why I'm just asking.
Okay. It's not visible now.
Sir, you may stop sharing, then you may share again, sir.
Okay. Or
Okay.
say I might go for a slide instead of
Yes,
taking.
sir. Yes, sir.
I think I should take a slide, right?
Yes, sir.
I did not, prepare many slides on that, but still, the slides which I do have may be of some use to you. So I'll
Okay.
just put the slide here. Yeah, I go back to this. Okay. Okay, fine. You have slides. Okay. Let me see again. I need to explore that. Just give me a minute.
Okay, sir. No problem.
Mhm. Mhm. Nice. Then logic, abstract slide. How to write an abstract? Okay, fine. Uh, are you able to get this new slide or not?
No, sir. No, sir. That's why, sir, I'm requesting if yes, if you stop already that sharing. Now you share, sir.
I did just a bit. Not this one. Uh, not how to write an abstract. Yeah, this is what I want to share with you. Share. Share. I hope this should be visible now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
Visible. Okay, that's fantastic. And then these are few things that I would like to put here. But again, the text is.
Sir, make it full screen, sir.
Yeah, I did it.
Okay.
Actually, this is
Yes, sir.
taken from a paper, right? And the title of the paper is given on the top, and uh, the components of the abstract have been shown here. The purpose, the design methodology and the approach, the findings have been given here in detail, which should have been further um, uh, cut down, but the point is I just wanted to make it clear that the major findings, only major findings are to be put in here. So I will look at these are different components of abstract: the purpose, the design, methodology, and approach, then findings, and then practical implications, theoretical implications, the originality, and the keywords. And these are the kinds of things. And they may just go through this text and then we'll go for discussing something else. If it is written, if it is read, then I will go it further. I must again admit that this is a slightly detailed abstract. It should be further concised, but just have a look at this. The titles are extremely important, the practical implications, the theoretical implications, and then something more. How do you add value to the research? What are the practical implications? So if you have read it, originality here. In what way your paper contributes to the existing research? So you must need to highlight the novelty in your paper that will make the paper publishable. Otherwise, not. And then keywords, of course, you give, because on the basis of keywords you are discovered and then cited in the literature further. So that's the abstract writing kind. And then there is another paper, and there are lots of things that way. So I'll stop sharing this here now. Instead of it, I go back to what I had been sharing with you. Okay. Am I visible now? Not me, but the text is visible or not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Slightly visible.
Okay. Now, there is something. How do you begin with the introduction? Beginning an introduction is extremely important. It catches readers' attention, for instance, help you to place your project in a given context. Then, how do you start your writing your introduction? So, there is a sentence given here. The universe has been expanding from the very moment it was born. That is a sentence, and that's the point you are starting with when you are writing your introduction. So, do you think that this subject, this starting sentence is okay, or it needs to be revised, or in what way it needs to be, rewritten? Right. Now, the universe, there is a problem with this kind of sentence. The universe has been expanding from the very moment it was born. So, how do we know that the universe has been expanding from the very moment? We have not cited anything, we have not cited any study, nothing. So, people will not accept your words because you are saying it, right? If it is not properly backed up by or supported by the or corroborated by some literature which has already been generated and is considered to be credible, right? So, for instance, if you say this particular sentence as uh, uh, the recent studies have proved, or something of this sort, or for instance, recent studies suggest, right? If you say this, recent studies suggest that universe has been expanding from the very moment it was born, and then you cite the studies which might have suggested it, then this sentence would be a corroborative sentence, a sentence that you have not said from your own side or on your own. Rather, you have taken it from the literature, which has already gained credibility in the minds of the people. So your when you start your introduction, it must be put in a context, should be corroborative kind of sentence, and should have something to support, maybe citation of the existing literature or whatever you feel like, right? So just now writing the introduction part, the advice is that you give some background to the study and set the scene for the report. You explain the connection between with any previous work and gap, explain background theory, explain your objective and hypothesis very clearly, explain briefly what you will do and why the study is being carried out, and explain briefly how the report is structured, the signposting of it. And as I told you earlier, you need to rewrite the introduction chapter after you finish the report, right? So, introduction chapter carries so much. I did have lots of literature on as to how to select the methodology, methods, and all. But probably the time limitation doesn't allow me to share all that with you. But whatever little I can share, I'll do that. Okay, nothing great about here. Okay, I'll just skip a few things here. Okay, these are extremely important points to me. you need to define and explain your hypothesis and the theories and models you use to develop it. Now, what is the basis of formulating the hypothesis? One basis that you know about is the review of literature. On the basis of literature, you propound certain hypotheses. But then there is something called intuitiveness. You feel that what the existing review of literature has told you is good, but it needs to be further built upon something else. And therefore, you may come up with your own hypothesis. But for that, you will have to give very grounded reasons. Right. Then define and explain competing hypotheses. Because sometimes you have one set of hypotheses, but there are other sets of hypotheses available which are in conflict with your hypothesis. You also need to define and explain them so that people would feel that you could be objective in your judgment because you are also discussing the competing hypothesis. And then, of course, you may compare and contrast the specific points where we agree or disagree. So that's extremely important, and this is what we generally avoid. Literature review, again, it's important because it helps you to identify the theoretical framework for your work, and then the identification of the dependent and independent variables, methodological or conceptual gaps or flaws in the previous research, and it also helps you to formulate your own research question or hypothesis. Right. So review of literature is extremely important, and it builds a strong foundation for your work, whether a paper or a PhD dissertation. Then look at these kinds of questions that you need to answer when you are formulating and discussing your hypothesis. You need to discuss how does my hypothesis directly answer the question posed by the problem? How does the hypothesis fit in with other hypotheses or more general theory? How will my work challenge or support the work of others? What is the current theory to which it relates? What are the alternative views to this theory? What are the strengths and weaknesses of those views? And on what literature did I or can I base my explanation? These are the kinds of questions that you need to address to when you are discussing your hypothesis. Then material, okay, I'm also skipping this. Results and discussion. This is a very important one, but I can't share my Word file with you here. Maybe I'll share it with Dr. Das, who would in turn share those files with you, which very extensively deal with as to how to go for results and discussion, and how do we develop insights from the discussion, detailed discussion, right? So I'll share them with you, share those files with you through Dr. Das.
Okay. Okay, sir.
And one thing which I would like to say, incorporating figures and tables, I skip my discussion on because the point is I need to, okay. Have a look at this results and discussion section. This is very important section because it demonstrates the meaning of your research, number one. Then this section of the paper or your PhD dissertation will draw upon writing skills that other sections do not. Because you need to write persuasively in this section as you convince readers that your interpretation of data is logical and correct. You are not going to force your findings on the readers. You will persuasively write that why the reader should believe your findings and what is the credibility of your data set and all that, right? So that's important for you to make very clear to the readers here. As you develop your argument in this section, consider arranging your evidence in the order that best highlights your main point. Cite authorities or the experts or credible researchers that have come to similar interpretations under similar circumstances, and consider the superiority of your conclusions to opposing or conflicting viewpoints. And this is very, very challenging task that a researcher will have to do. And when the editors of a journal do decide about the fate of a research paper, This is the core thing that they look at. Then again, interpretation has to be logical, and there are different ways to organize your interpretation of data. So, okay, these are some points you can have a look at it, but there is something more that I'll tell you about. Now, how do you report your results? Just read this particular text. Okay, I believe you have read it. Okay, and then few more points. And these are extremely important points. Have a look at them. Identify the sources of error or limitation and key inadequacies of your techniques, especially if your results are inadequate, negative, or not consistent with earlier studies or with your own hypothesis. So don't say that, it's not a good research or something. Or don't say that your research is the best one and others had lot of problems. They had the data problems, they had the methodology problems and all. Do not try to defend your research or minimize the seriousness of the limitation in your interpretation. Indeed, focus on the limitation only as it affects the research and try to account for that. Why these kinds of results? And then you need to discuss the plausible reasons. Plausible reasons for it. Now, one way to sum up, have a look at, okay, no, I think I don't have time to explain all this to you, but yeah, this again is extremely important to me. When you are concluding, then your sentences should be like that. Very sorry. This research demonstrates, this would be your starting sentence, or this research suggests, or this research implies. It means that this research is subject to certain limitations. Limitations could be out of methodology, out of sample, out of the timings of research or whatever. So you say that research has come up with these. The research demonstrates these kinds of findings and it suggests this or it implies that. So you don't say that your word is final and it has to be accepted by one and all. Right? Make sure that readers can tell your conclusions from the implications of these conclusions and do not claim too much for your research in discussing implications. You can use the phrases such as under the following circumstances or in most instances or in these specific cases that will help you to warn readers that they should not generalize your conclusions. So have a look at this text once again before I say something more. And this is a very ideal kind of language for writing your conclusions. The research has conclusively proved. You cannot write like that because you cannot conclusively prove by picking up data for a particular time point or for a particular cross section or for one particular year. You cannot say that it's valid for all times to come. So writing down like this makes your research far more dependable. Your reporting far more dependable. If you have read it, then I can see. Okay, fine. Have a look at this too. I'm not going to give you the detailed case here because it's difficult to cover it up within the time frame given. But the first two paragraphs that you can look at. One more thing which I might, tell you about. I earlier gave you example of a research problem, household fertility behavior, right? Suppose we come to the conclusion, our results have told us that literate parents will have lesser number of children. That's the finding based upon your analysis of results, analysis of the data, right? Now, data has said that. But is that the final word from the researcher, or you need to go beyond it? In research perspective, you need to go much beyond it. If the result says that more educated parents to have lesser number of children, you need to find the mechanism through which it happens, because that would provide you an insight into the policy implications of your findings. Suppose you might talk about certain plausible reasons for it. For instance, for literate parents, if the parents are literate, they're likely to be settled in some job somewhere. There is very likelihood of it. Therefore, old age pension may not be a big problem for them. So they don't produce children as an insurance against old age. Right? They are not. Similarly, if they are educated, they will look into the quantity quality trade offs, and they would feel that if they want to have better quality of the children, then they need to have limited number of them, right? And old then again, replacement hypothesis, partial replacement hypothesis, it says that if you want to get a limited number of children, you need to produce a larger number of children, which was true when the death rates were very high, and so were the birth rates. Right now, since the health conditions have improved a lot, there is every chance that all the children that are take birth in your household would stay as alive. Right. So you need not to produce a larger number of children in order to get a given number of children surviving. Right. So here you may explain why the literate parents do have lesser number of children based upon partial replacement hypothesis, based upon old age insurance, based upon more contribution towards the family's kitty that generally happens in case of poor families. So since they might be earning reasonably good, therefore they would not force their children to start earning right from the childhood. So these are the kinds of plausible explanations you will give in support of your result. And these plausible explanations, which obviously should also be backed up with some evidences or data or some, sort of uh, uh, strong logical argument, which will provide an insight to the policy makers as to where to hit most if their objective is to reduce the population explosion in the country. So that's what I wanted to tell you. And there are many more things about report writing and all. Given the time frame, I think it's enough for us for today. Maybe I'll invite few questions if Dr. Das approves of it.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
sir, there was actually a power failure.
Oh.
So after power restoration, when we log in again, so question answer from our end, it's showing nil. Okay, there is no question. But
My.
you will find lower part of this Zoom, you will find there is QA. Okay. If there is any question and if you like to take up, you may take up, sir. And thank you very much, sir, that you accepted our request and you enlightened our participants about how they can write effective papers and how they can write effective reports.
Okay, I tried a bit, but the point is, the first thing is that we are sitting at far off places. That's a major limitation.
Yes,
When we
yes, sir.
are physically close to each other, we may put in lots of questions. I might provide them additional material which I'm not able to right now. Uh, I cannot do it right now, but I'll share a few files with you which you can share with the